The housing market continues to be hot, despite no end in sight for the COVID-19 pandemic. As I have reported lately, if there were more existing home sellers and more new homes being built, they would all sell right now. We're in the midst of a one for the record book seller's market, with buyers competing for the limited inventory of homes for sale. With buyers having to fight for homes, chaos reigns supreme. So I was wondering, is the housing market too hot? Is the current rate of sales sustainable? Are we seeing 2003 through 2006 conditions happening again? Today's housing market report starts with a look at the big picture, the U.S. housing market, then drills down to Leon County, and finally to zip code level in the Tallahassee real estate market. Sit back, relax, grab a cold drink, and follow along to find out if the market is oversold or if it's just cooking with gas. Hi, I'm Joe Manausa, author of The Business of Getting Business and creator of Manausa.com, where I've helped tens of thousands of people buy and sell homes. I would like to help you too. If you already are a subscriber, thank you and welcome back. If you're not a subscriber, please consider becoming one now. We offer the most thorough and accurate housing market reports on YouTube, plus answers to your real estate frequently asked questions, and we also provide virtual tours of some of the most beautiful homes in Tallahassee. Simply hit subscribe to get started, and the bell, so that you're the most informed buyer or seller in your next real estate transaction. Let's start with the big picture. Our first graph shows the number of homes sold in the U.S. from 1989 to the present. 2020 home sales figures have been estimated by annualizing the current number of homes sold. New home sales are shown in blue, stacked on top of existing home sales shown in red. The U.S. housing market is certainly hot, though it is on pace to fall short of a record by more than 1 million home sales. As it stands right now, it looks as if 2020 will finish as the 5th or 6th strongest year on record. Bear in mind, the U.S. population is growing, thus one would expect over time that the number of home sales would grow too. The population is up 12% versus 2005 and up 25% since the beginning of this graph. I believe the large population growth suggests plenty of upside in the U.S. housing market. Sure, the pandemic could cause a disastrous impact on our economy, and we have to closely monitor what's going on. But the long-term outlook for the U.S. housing market is strong, and I would say with great confidence that home sales across the U.S. are not too hot. Now, let's drill down to Tallahassee. Here we see the number of homes sold in Leon County, Florida, from 1991 to the present. 2020 sales figures have been estimated by annualizing the current number of homes sold. New home sales are shown in blue, stacked on top of existing home sales shown in red. The Tallahassee housing market is not as tepid as the U.S. housing market, though home sales are solid in 2020. As it stands right now, it looks as if this year will finish as the 10th or 11th best year of the past 30 years. That means we're likely to finish among the top third of all years. Does that sound too hot to you? Tallahassee's population has risen significantly more than the U.S. population during that time. We're 15% larger than we were during the record-setting year of 2005 and a whopping 52% stronger than 1991. There's just a lot more people living here now. I believe there's significantly more upside in the Tallahassee real estate market, and barring large health or economic issues from the pandemic, the upside for Tallahassee home sales is very strong. Upon viewing Tallahassee's current rate of sales and comparing it with the past, I can say with great confidence that home sales in Tallahassee are not too hot. As we drill down further into the Tallahassee real estate market, we see that home values through the first 7 months of 2020 have risen 6.3% higher than home values through the first 7 months of 2019. The appreciation graph lists all active zip codes in the Tallahassee real estate market and looks at change in values of existing homes, meaning I have not included new construction. The 32303 and 32310 zip codes are leading all others, with homes appreciating at rates exceeding 8% in 2020. Only 32317 has a lower than historical average rate in 2020, with a rate of roughly 1/2 the norm. Now, referring back to the question posed at the beginning of this video, is an overall appreciation rate of 6% too hot? Considering the average appreciation rate in the 1990s was just over 3%, I would say this is a major concern, but I also believe the rate's going to go higher. The supply side problem that most U.S. housing markets are facing today will push us to unprecedented appreciation rates for many years to come. We will see the gap between new construction prices and existing home prices tighten, and I'm gravely concerned about the potential for hyperinflation. If you want to know more about my thoughts on rampant appreciation, I suggest you watch my recent video where I discuss home prices that have been adjusted for inflation. What about you? Are you concerned about more Americans being priced out of the housing market? Is the move away from single-family homes towards multifamily due to construction costs and inevitability? If you have a strong opinion on this, please share it with other viewers in the comment section below. Let's continue to drill down into the Tallahassee real estate market to find out what people are spending on homes in each of the active zip codes. Northeast Tallahassee continues to top all other segments of the housing market when it comes to the average price of homes sold. The 32312 zip code unsurprisingly came out on top with an average home price of $350,000, while 32304 continues to deliver the least expensive homes, averaging just over $100,000. Overall, the average price of an existing home sold in Tallahassee in 2020 has been $239,000. Are home prices too hot? Again, as with values, yes they are, but don't expect to see homes get cheaper anytime soon unless we have a major disruption of our economy due to the pandemic. I addressed the differences between new and existing homes in a recent video, showing that building and development costs are so much higher now in Leon County that we're going to see all homes getting more expensive. Hey, if you're getting good information from this video, please take a quick moment to mash down the like button. It's that thumbs up icon just below the video. Go ahead, it won't hurt, and it'll certainly help me. It sends a message to YouTube that this is a video worth promoting across its network. Thank you so much. Our report will now drill down to the zip code level of the housing market, and as you'll see, the results are not consistently distributed across all the active zip codes in the Tallahassee real estate market. You have heard me repeatedly say that the market is not too hot for every category we have covered, but there is at least one zip code where you'll hear me say that it is too hot. Can you guess the correct zip code before I get to it? Each graph contains the total number of homes sold each year, both new and existing, while previous years contain all 12 months of the year. The current year only contains home sales through the first 3 weeks of August in 2020. There are 10 active zip codes in the Tallahassee real estate market, so let's check out each one in numerical order. Each zip code will have a graph displaying the number of homes sold and the average price each year. In 32301, the current rate of home sales will result in 2020 seeing fewer homes sold than were reported in 2019, making 2020 a top 10 year for homes sold. Based on this activity, I believe it's fair to say that the real estate market in the 32301 zip code is not too hot. We've seen this many homes sold here before and will likely do so again in the future. The average home price in the 32301 zip code has risen less than 2% over last year's average, meaning the current pace should lead to an average home price change of about 3% in 2020. So for the 32301 zip code, home sales certainly are not too hot to sustain. In 32303, the current rate of home sales will result in 2020 posting more homes sold than were reported in any year going back to 2007, making 2020 a top 5 year for home solds. Based on this activity, I believe it's fair to say that the real estate market in the 32303 zip code is not too hot, though it will be only outpaced by the explosive years of 2003 through 2006. The average home price in the 32303 zip code has risen just under 7% over last year's average, meaning the pace should lead to an average home price change of nearly 12% in 2020 and is already an all-time record high. In 32304, the current rate of home sales will result in 2020 posting more homes sold than were reported in any year going back to 2006, making 2020 a top 4 year for homes sold. Based on this activity, I believe it's fair to say that the real estate market in the 32304 zip code is not too hot, though it will only be outpaced by the explosive years of 2004 through 2006. The average home price in the 32304 zip code has risen just over 8.5% over last year's average, meaning the pace should lead to an average home price change of more than 14% in 2020, though it's still below the all-time record high. In 32305, the current rate of home sales will result in 2020 seeing more homes sold than were reported in 2019, but less than many other recent years, making 2020 a top 12 year for homes sold. Based on this activity, I believe it's more than fair to say that real estate market in the 32305 zip code is not too hot. The average home price in the 32305 zip code has risen 21% over last year's average, meaning the pace should lead to an average home price change of about 36% in 2020. I suspect we'll see this pace cool off as the second half of the year plays out. While this price growth is crazy high, the 32305 zip code still has some of the least expensive homes for sale in Tallahassee. In 32308, the current rate of home sales will result in 2020 posting more homes sold than were reported in any previous year, making 2020 the top year for homes sold. Based on this activity, I believe one could say that the real estate market in the 32308 zip code is too hot, though it has to finish as strong as it started, but with less inventory. Also, unlike what we saw from most other zip codes, the years 2004 through 2006 did not experience the spike in sales as there were very few new homes built in this zip code and speculators were shopping elsewhere. The average home price in the 32308 zip code has risen just over 8% more than last year's average, meaning the pace should lead to an average home price change of more than 13% in 2020, and this average price has already achieved the all-time record high. In 32309, the current rate of home sales will result in 2020 seeing about the same number of homes sold that were reported in 2019, making 2020 a middle-of-the-pack year for homes sold. Based on this activity, I believe it's fair to say that the real estate market in the 32309 zip code is not too high. The average home price in the 32309 zip code has risen more than 6.5% over last year's average, meaning the pace should lead to an average home price change of about 11% in 2020. In 32310, the current rate of home sales will result in 2020 seeing fewer homes sold than were reported last year, making 2020 a middle-of-the-pack year for homes sold. Based on this activity, I believe it's fair to say that the real estate market in the 32310 zip code is not too hot. The average home price in the 32310 zip code has exploded nearly 35% higher than last year's average, meaning that something serious must be going on in the 32310 zip code. The 32310 zip code is located in Tallahassee's southwest quadrant and has a combination of lower-priced inner-city homes combined with higher-priced homes on and around Lake Tauquin. When you take those two extremes and then factor in the relatively few number of homes sold each year, there's going to be volatility in the data. This year, the average sales price is 29% higher than the median sales price, meaning a few high-end sales are skewing the average much higher. If you look closely at the graph, you'll see in the past that the average prices bounced around quite often due to this volatility. In 32311, the current rate of home sales will result in 2020 posting more homes sold than were reported in any year going back to 2007, making 2020 a top 4 year for homes sold. The 32311 zip code is located in southeast Tallahassee, and we often say that as goes the Southwood community, so too goes the 32311 zip code. Someday in the near future, when new home sales are exhausted in Southwood, we'll see the resale market stabilize and the expected number of home sales will be far less than what we saw during Southwood's large growth years from 2001 through the present. Based on current activity, I believe it's fair to say that the real estate market in the 32311 zip code is not too hot, though 2020 will only be outpaced by the explosive years of 2004 through 2006. The average home price in the 32311 zip code has risen just over 5% over last year's average, meaning the pace should lead to an average home price change of about 10% in 2020, which remains below the all-time record high. In 32312, the current rate of home sales will result in 2020 seeing more homes sold than were reported in 2019, but fewer than many past years, making 2020 a top 10 year for homes sold. Based on this activity, I believe it's fair to say that the real estate market in the 32312 zip code is not too hot. The average home price in the 32312 zip code has not moved much over the past 3 years, but it does sit at an all-time high record of $350,000. Our final zip code in this report is 32317. The current rate of home sales will result in 2020 posting more homes sold than were reported in any year going back to 2006, making 2020 a top 5 year for homes sold. Based on this activity, I believe it's fair to say that the real estate market in the 32317 zip code is not too hot, though it will only be outpaced by the explosive years of 2002 through 2005. The average home price in the 32317 zip code has come down just over 1% in 2020 when compared to last year's average. I would expect to see this reverse and move higher by year's end. That's about as far down as we're going to dig today. I started this video with 3 questions. Is the housing market too hot? Is the current rate of sales sustainable? Are we seeing 2003 through 2006 conditions happening again? We've seen that the national market is not too hot, nor is the local market, nor are the zip codes in our area, with the possible exception of 32308. The population, both locally and nationally, has grown, so we expect to see the housing market grow too. Though, there are cycles and influencers far beyond just population growth that will have short-term impacts on the market. The current rate of sales is much lower than the peak of the market years and should be sustainable at current or even higher levels, and today's market does not even closely resemble the speculative market from 2003 through 2006. Think about how many times we saw zip codes only selling at 4th, 5th, and even 12th best years on records in today's report. Does that sound like an out-of-control housing market to you? It certainly does not seem so to me. And when you factor in the growth of our population, we should be seeing a record number of sales in many areas, not just one zip code. We are not seeing anything in the market that resembles the activity from 2003 through 2006, and we're not even at record prices in most areas. The housing market is not too hot, and our population growth will eventually push us to heights not yet reached. If you have further questions or feedback on today's topic, I welcome your input in the comments section below. Please remember to like this video. If you would like a deeper dive on home prices, inflation adjusted, and what it means for buyers today versus those who bought a home in the past, just click on the video at the top left, or click below it if you'd like to see my video on the difference between new home sales and existing home sales.